Mike, what are you doing here?
Looking at porn?
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name's Mike Royer.
And this is a spoilercast for Spider-Man Homecoming, the first official Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie that stands alone by itself. That's not, Civil War. So
Yes, and I believe this is the first MCU movie of the year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're
I feel
very
like
wrong. This is Guardians.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Man, I was just about to say, we're halfway through the year, and we've already, talked about so many movies of the year, I've already forgotten about the last one. And that's not to say Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 is forgettable. It was very, very good, but there's just so much on our plate now. I can't even remember what we saw last. I felt like Lego Batman happened 2 years ago already.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I think last week was the only week I have not... The week before Spider-Man was the only week I did not go to the movies this summer. And I've seen some bad ones, so...
Yeah, you didn't go see the Minions?
No,
Despicable Me 3 or whatever you want to call it?
Skip Despicable Me 3 after the floater that was Transformers 5, so... thankfully, we're beyond that. We're in July now.
Yes.
I guess, I don't know if summer's winding down or kicking up right now. July's a busy month for everybody.
Yeah, I guess it's weird. If you want to talk about just summer kind of chronologically on the calendar, we're probably halfway through it. But if you're kind of talking about movies, I think we've had kind of the big hitters. I mean, there's still some ones that come out that we want to see. I know I really want to see Valerian. We both really want to see the next Kingsman movie. So there's still stuff to look forward to this summer. But, we'll kind of have to wait and see when it drops. But we took a break last week from our normal news episode. So if you guys want to catch up and hear what we've been up to recently, check out our news episode, and we'll talk about that stuff at the top of the show.
Yeah, definitely. We'll give you not feedback, but a rundown of what we did in our 2 weeks off that we rarely ever have in between recordings. I was I need to get ready for recording last Sunday. Then I would realize I was in a hotel room. I can't do this. So we gotta keep going. But we are here. We are ready to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. We have not talked about it since we both watched it on Thursday. Despite several people asking, "Hey, what did Mike think?" I'm like, we don't talk.
It is kind of weird because I think most normal people when they leave a movie and they have a reaction to it, they instantly start texting their friends, especially if they had also gone and seen it the same night. But with me and you, it's radio silence, so I have no idea. I have a guess that if you're trending with the rest of the people out there, that I think you had a positive experience, but we'll find out here shortly.
Yes. So anything to preface this, Mike, before we just jump in and
well, I guess I can preface when we got to the theater. So we went, Thursday night. I didn't make the Wonder Woman mistake that we did last time where we saw it on a Saturday. I felt like I was waiting ages to see Wonder Woman because I waited 2 extra days. So we saw this on a Thursday night. Bought my tickets for the showing. I think we were the third and fourth people to buy tickets for this showing. So we got our tickets early for the 8 p.m. We show up and we're stuck right next to these basically millennial teenage girls that are just there, just talking about. I'm gonna sound like an old man right now, but they're scrolling through Snapchat and Instagram, talking about all these boys and stuff, criticizing another girl's foundation or something like that. My wife was telling me. Now, this was all before the movie started, so I was on pins and needles the whole time, hoping these girls would shut up and respect the movie once it started, because this was kind of a slightly similar situation to when I went and saw Looper a while ago. Looper, there's lots of girls in that sci-fi movie because of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I heard some swoons and oh my god, he's so cute when Tom Holland pops up on the screen with this movie. So I was like, settle down, girls. I'm trying to watch my Spider-Man movie here. I don't care about your Tom Holland movie. But luckily, they chilled out, they relaxed, and I got to have a good movie viewing experience. So that'll be my preface.
That's good. I got mine. I got to the theater. I think we were 6th or 7th in line as usual. Because I'm not waiting forever in line, because they don't have the reserved seating back in our IMAX yet, and I had to watch it in IMAX. So I'm sitting there waiting, and the theater's not quite full yet, and I look over, and there is Brian and Evan, the owners of my comic book store, coming up and trying to find a seat. So I flagged them down. We still had seats beside us. They sat beside us, and we had a great time.
That's awesome, man.
It's one of those, like, normally it's me and my wife, and it's our time to go to the movies. And the second or third time I go with somebody else, but see the movie for the first time with friends like that. That's a good experience. It's a good fun time. So
awesome, man.
So we did that, and then that's really about it. That was pretty standard going experience. So that was pretty easy, pretty laid back.
Well, all right, man. Lay it on me. What did you think about Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I like it a lot. Yep, you called it. Going with the flow here, Mike. What about you? What do you think?
Man.
You're a Spider-Man aficionado more so than I am. So
yeah, man. It was a great time. So I know I'm watching a good superhero movie when I'm about like a third of way through the movie. I start to like feel the comic book. Like I feel like I'm reading through a comic book trade. Like, oh, I felt like I just finished issue 1 and I'm turning the page on issue 2 on the screen right now. And I love that feeling because that's how I really feel like comic book movies should feel. So we kind of had a lot of that going on in Spider-Man: Homecoming. The humor, I think, is pretty cranked up in this movie. I would say even more than the action. So very surprising, since I think this movie is credited with like 6 or 7 screenwriters, so I have no idea what was happening behind the scenes in this movie. Like maybe if those were just kind of some touch-up people and one person has the lion's share of the writing credit with this movie. But yeah, I was digging all the jokes. I was having a great time. When we got to our action pieces, they were really, really great and choreographed. Luckily, even in all the bad Spider-Man movies I've seen, the action has always been good. It's just always really a joy to see this character translated to live action. It always works really, really well. Even when maybe CG wasn't so great back in Tobey Maguire's days. Yeah. But yeah, it's still really awesome, and I loved all that. And it was even surprising considering we don't see Spidey a whole lot in New York. The thing I love about Spidey in the web slinging is how he's swinging through the big, tall buildings. And I thought I'd miss out on some of that, and I didn't. It was actually really fun and clever seeing him in the suburbs. I mean, how many times have people wondered how would Spider-Man fare away from tall buildings? And shockingly, we got literally almost a whole movie where he's not in that. So I feel like there's still a whole lot to explore, surprisingly, with a character that we've seen a ton of already. Like, I can't wait to see Tom Holland maybe move from Queens into the big city, because we'll probably talk a little bit about the timeline of this movie. But, I'm thinking maybe the next Spider-Man movie, maybe he's a senior in high school, or maybe he's going into college, depending on how they age him, and maybe he moves into downtown. I'd love to see how that happens. But yeah, I had a great time. We had a great MCU villain that was on par with Loki. He was taking his shots and really well motivated. The movie opened really interesting. Especially with the little homemade video Tom Holland was making, or I guess Peter Parker was making in the movie.
It's all the same. Once you've confused them for each other, you're like, he embodies the role.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I think if I had to bring up any negatives, there will be kind of nitpicks, but I think there might be something interesting enough to bring up. But yeah, I had a great time laughing out loud, great bits, great gags. This is kind of one of those Marvel movies where you really can lean into the humor. My biggest criticism of Iron Man 3 was it was too funny and it was too silly. And, because I want a little bit more seriousness when it comes to my Iron Man. I kind of want to see the stuff that Tony is struggling with. But with Peter, he's like a kid. He's allowed to quip and have fun. That's the character. So the Marvel tone and humor is just a match made in heaven for this type of movie. And I have to say, I was legitimately worried going into this movie just because I hated the way the trailers were cut. I even went back and I watched the third Spider-Man trailer after I saw this movie to see maybe if I overblew it a little bit. And I think I considered myself saved because I felt like there was some stuff in that third trailer that I think gave away too much, especially with kind of the role of Donald Glover in the movie. I wasn't expecting him to be in the movie hardly at all, and he actually had a little bit of a role to play, and we'll kind of address the Easter egg there too.
Well, I think that's a good point for me to transition. I love the Easter eggs in this movie. They're all over the place, but they're not like in your face kind of things. Like they're winks and nods, but they're not like jabbing you with the elbows. Hey, we're in Marvel. Hey, check out this thing.
They take the back seat to the story.
Yeah, and they're there all over. And I found myself, seeing them in the scenes and here and there and everywhere. And you know, something you brought, Spider-Man in the city. Spider-Man usually in the comics isn't in the city, surprisingly enough, because like he's only called in when the Avengers finally need somebody. Like he never was a founding Avenger. I think until like the 2000s he was Avenger. So I really enjoyed, like, you know, he was, to quote, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man running around doing stuff, and I really enjoyed that. You know, his real life, you know, I guess some people have said, you know, it's more of a, I guess, I don't know how to put it, but I really enjoyed seeing Tom Holland as Peter Parker and like his day to day. How do I juggle this Stark internship, which was actually a pretty clever cover for what he was doing for a long time, and then, you know, the situations he got himself into because he was trying to do the right thing, like the whole part where he gets locked up in the like an underground facility for several hours, meeting Karen for the first time was definitely interesting. So I had a really good time. I really love the Easter eggs, and I don't know if you want to jump into that now or not. We can, but there are definitely several I want to point out along the way. So
yeah, well, on that note, when you were saying it was interesting to see how he's kind of dealing with his personal life, I felt like this was the first Spider-Man movie where we actually felt a kid struggling with the specific natures of being a high school student and being a superhero. I mean, obviously Tobey Maguire's character wasn't really in high school very long in his trilogy, and really a lot of his struggle came from like paying rent and juggling like a job and stuff like that, you know. Not something that young Peter Parker's ever really had to deal with. And even the middle Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, he was technically in high school, but it was more kind of about his relationship with Gwen and Aunt May and stuff like that. And high school really was just kind of like a thorn in his side. But in this movie, he's like specifically making choices on screen of, do I go hang out with my friends, like, and be a normal kid, or do I go be a hero? Like, I really thought that was the best it's ever been portrayed on screen. And like when he was making his decision whether he should go track that signal when they're in Washington at that hotel, or go hang out with all his debate friends at the pool, I really felt him. I was just like, oh man, you would have so much fun if you just went and hung out with them in the pool. Go do that for a little bit and then go on your Spider-Man adventure. But then he made the sacrifice, and I was just like, oh man. So it was really cool seeing that.
It definitely was, and he had several of those instances. It wasn't just one or two.
Yeah,
like, he's like, do I go be Spider-Man and make, you know, show up as Spider-Man and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I really know Peter Parker kind of thing, build up his own social stature, and then he had to go chase down the drug, or not drug, but the gun cartel, and doing that. And, you know, to me, you know, I love it. And then one of the I guess the most tenseful scenes in the movie is when he's in the car with Michael Keaton before the dance.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really had a tense moment like that in an MCU movie. Really, I would love it if anybody knows any off the top of their head to write in and let us know. But yeah, that was just something that we haven't gotten in an MCU movie in a while. And it was fun trying to see, like, oh, who knows what? And, oh, well, technically Peter knows that he's a Vulture, but does he know that and I was like, oh, did Spider-Man ever take his mask off? And so the whole time I'm trying to figure this out, and it's really tense in the car. And that's a good way to jump into this Marvel movie. Guess what? It had a twist. I can't remember the last time I went to a superhero movie that had like an interesting twist, and I didn't see it coming. I'm sure a lot of people out there will be like, oh, well, we haven't seen her dad yet, so it's obviously the only other like male-aged person in the movie that's talking about his family. And I get that, you know, maybe some people are just a little bit more on top of it, but I was like blown away, because since the movie kind of set up this lighthearted tone, I was expecting Peter to just go to the door, and just like the parents were just going to be like really weird, and it was going to be like an awkward cut to like the couch and just really awkward, and then they would end up going to the dance. But yeah, when it was him, I was like, whoa, this is crazy, this is intense, this is a huge twist. There's so many things that are going to come from this, because we can't just dispatch the Vulture super easily now, because, you know, he like Peter likes his daughter, and I legitimately didn't know where the movie was going to go, because I was like, well, this obviously isn't going to wrap up in a clean bow at the very end. Like that daughter, I don't remember the character's name off the top of my head, but she's going to have ramifications from this. What's going to happen when her dad just disappears or goes to jail or finds out that he was like a supervillain? So yeah, that was an amazing twist.
And the fact they kept that twist hidden, even though he was at their house earlier,
Yeah.
Like with that house party was the same house earlier. Like they held on to that very well. And then, and as much as you said the trailer maybe giving something away, but I don't think the trailers gave that away. And I saw all of them, and I was like, okay, whoa, now this is getting serious. So it was definitely fun. It reminded me a lot of the callback to Spider-Man 1, the original one, where Peter Parker finds out that his best friend's dad is the person who chased him down, and they find out at the dinner table. Like, it was a nice throwback to that moment.
Oh yeah, that's a good moment. Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. And then that comes back at the end. Of course, there are spoilers in this. If you're listening this far in, and you didn't figure that out. Sorry, but at the end, at least the Vulture, he's like, this guy saved my life. Like, I'm gonna keep his identity secret, so maybe I can get my revenge later. But he also did save my life at the end. Like, he didn't. He was like, you saved my life, I saved yours, kind of deal in the car. So then later on, that came back into play later, I think, at least to me.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Vulture here just for a second, since we're on him. I love that he actually had some legitimate, motivation. He didn't want to destroy the world with a skybeam. He didn't have some sort of grudge, maybe specifically with superheroes. Maybe sometimes you see in X-Men movies, we don't like the mutants. He was mad that his business was destroyed by the Stark Industry. And he, so he decided he was tired of being the little person. He wanted the profit off all of this stuff. It was really cool. It was kind of a little bit reminiscent of the kind of cleanup crews of Pacific Rim when when they were making money off those dead kaijus and all this stuff in there from that Ron Perlman was running. So I thought that was cool. I could see this happening. And this was also kind of a little bit of a seed of that Marvel TV show that we never got. I think maybe it was going to be called Cleanup Crew. I don't remember the exact name. Damage Control, that's right. So I thought it was kind of cool that it got kind of spun into a Spider-Man movie. I guess it still technically could be a TV show someday, and they just did a even better job setting it up in the Spider-Man movie. So I thought that was kind of cool. You got this everyday guy who's smart on top of it. He's just a hardworking guy. Then he gets screwed over, and then he becomes a villain. And then we kind of see of his crew and how they work and operate and how he's still smart. He wants to be under the radar. We don't go into this whole convoluted mess of how he got the Vulture suit, how he built it, how was anybody smart enough to do that. He probably wasn't even the guy that built it. His buddy,
the Tinker.
Yeah, which I don't know if that was technically ever officially confirmed in the movie. I assume maybe a producer or somebody said that is the Tinker.
Well, his name is lines up with the Tinker's name in the comic books.
Gotcha. That's what I assumed.
Yeah,
so
Phineas Mason. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. So they didn't really worry too much about that. I think they just kind of trusted the audience that okay, I think we'll just assume that people can do this in this universe since we've had these movies around for so long. So yeah, I thought he was properly motivated, and he was a bad guy, but he was basically just kind of like a robber and guns dealer. He didn't really have a vendetta to kill Spider-Man until Spider-Man was really digging into his craw. So yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely. He came off as that, and he like you said, he didn't want to kill Spider. He has, I don't know if it's honor, but he's and like it said in the car, you saved my life. I'm gonna save. This is me saving yours. Say thank you, kind of thing. And it was fun. I mean, all he wanted to do was, again, like a vulture, clean up the scraps and live off of it. So I thought that parallel was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if that had ever been addressed really so directly in the comics before. That's literally what a vulture does, is pick up the scraps. And
yeah, I mean, but it was cool that, he also had, the Tinker was making his web, but he also got to create the Shocker gloves, and he had his two guys be the shockers of the movie, so to speak.
Yeah, it was really funny, even though we knew and reported on the fact that the Shocker was going to be in the movie. When I got so enveloped in everything that was going on, I totally forgot that he was in there. So I didn't realize, oh yeah, the Shocker is in the movie until the Shocker punched Spidey kind of under that overpass when they were trying to sell something to Donald Glover's character, and I was just like, oh, that's the Shocker glove. Oh, that's the Shocker. And then, of course, later he gets killed and somebody else gets the Shocker glove. So I thought that was kind of cool, because that is something that we do need a little bit more in the Marvel Universe, is people actually dying, which I'm not trying to be cynical or anything, but we kind of need to know that people do have things at stake here. So I like how the Shocker was pretty replaceable there.
Yeah, it wasn't the man, it was the glove.
The glove itself. And I was kind of expecting two of them. I was like, where's the other glove? Is he going to put that on? And maybe we're waiting for later till we get that.
Yeah. Well, then the second guy, Bokeem Woodbine, he showed up, and, like, as the Shocker, I guess he was on the boat, but then most importantly, he was in the back of the school whenever Peter was like, I got to give up this homecoming dance to go stop the Vulture, one of his decisions, and they ran through and gets knocked through all the school buses with that guy. So the Shocker, they played a big role in this, at least to me.
And on top of all of that, I loved all of the supporting characters. They were so fleshed out, even if they had just small amounts of screen time, and they're all very unique and different. I was telling you before we started recording this episode, I know technically his name's Ned, but like I just call him Genki because he looks like he's literally ripped off the comic book page. Pretty much the same type of character too. The best friend of Spider-Man.
The guy in the chair.
Knows a secret identity. Yes, the guy in the chair. Which the whole time I was thinking of DC's Arrow and Felicity. I was like, there is always somebody in the chair. And then eventually he gets to be the guy in the chair, and he's swinging between computers, which really doesn't even make any sense because he could just open up a couple tabs. But I think, just knowing his character, even if it was less efficient, I think he does just want to be the guy in the chair. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I really even like the way they revealed that he found out Spider-Man's identity. Tom Holland thinks he's being slick, climbing into his room nice and quiet, and then Ned's just there on the bed with the
Legos,
Death Star. Yeah. So that was great. And then Michelle, or I guess Zendaya's character, she was fun and quirky. And spoilers, even though that's pointless because we already called this a spoiler cast, she's MJ, I guess.
MJ. She's actually Mary Jane Watson because her name is Michelle.
Yes.
So I mean, it's left up to be very vague. So,
yeah, I've kind of seen two competing theories on the web right now where, it could be a misdirect or maybe this is actually MJ, but even if it was, I think I'd be fine with that. I think it's okay to reinvent and update these characters, even if their personalities aren't totally in sync. And also, all of these characters are in high school. They're not all going to be super confident hotshots. Well, so maybe she'll grow into more of an MJ character.
Well, you talked a little bit about. Genki. He came from the Ultimate Spider-Man book. In the Ultimate Spider-Man books, Mary Jane Watson is a nerd reporter. She is not the face it tiger. You just won the jackpot kind of hottie. She is she's under the radar, very nerdy, very smart person in the Ultimate Universe as well, which I think they drew a lot of inspiration from this. Because you're talking about these side characters. You keep bringing up Donald Glover. Yes, Donald Glover's in there playing the character Aaron Davis, who is known for his comic book personality in the Ultimate Universe, the Prowler, who is the uncle of Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes, and he does say, my nephew lives in this neighborhood, so I think that's maybe not necessarily saying, yes, we're going to be getting Miles Morales as Spider-Man here in a couple of years soon. I think at the very least it's just stating he exists in this universe. You don't have to worry about parallel dimensions to get Miles over here.
We got him before Sony did, guys. We got him. They name drop him before Sony could make their own movie of it, Tony Revolori from one of my favorite movies, The Grand Budapest Hotel, played a different kind of Flash, a bully of a modern sorts. I believe. Yeah. One of those people who just he's not out there being muscly and doing. He's I guess nerd bullying. I guess I'm better than you kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it does kind of make sense because it is a science high school, so, how many big jocks, douchebags are you going to get at a science high school? And also, on top of that, it felt a little bit kind of like 21, 22 Jump Street, where in that movie, all the kids were just kind of this new version of kids. Not everybody's like they were, back in the day in comic books when they were first being written. The archetypes and stuff have been updated. So I enjoyed all of that. So even the supporting characters in this movie were awesome.
Yeah, and just to drop a couple other facts on you, we got the Scorpion, Matt Gargan, at the boat and at the end. You could tell by the scorpion on his tattoo on his neck if it wasn't too obvious.
That's funny. I didn't catch him at the boat scene.
Yeah, he's the one they're selling the guns to on the boat, and he gets knocked off the back, and he's holding onto the back of the boat the whole time.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't catch him there. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So that's how he got his face scarred, and I think he has some sort of prosthesis on his arm now. Which may be, a scorpion claw. I don't know. Whatever they want to do with him, that's fine. We've never seen the scorpion in the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, 2 returning Marvel Cinematic characters made their returns in this movie as different characters. The principal is Principal Morita, played by Kenneth Choi, who was a Howling Commando.
Yes, the whole time I was thinking, why does that guy look so familiar? And then when I got home and started doing some research, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, because he was a Howling Commando.
And you can see the picture of his grandfather as a Howling Commando on the principal's desk when Peter's in the principal's office.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So that was a little fun Easter egg. And also his teacher, the decathlon teacher, who doesn't want to lose children again, Martin Starr, he is actually in The Incredible Hulk as a lab scientist, and he lets Bruce Banner into the lab to send some data.
I wonder if that is technically the same character.
They didn't give him a name in the other one, so everyone's like, yeah, they're probably the same character, because science to science, it works out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe he fucked up so much at that lab, he had to get a job teaching at a high school. So
yeah, I mean, whatever. But I mean, I thought that was that was very, very fun. Comedian Hannibal Buress was the Coach Wilson.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know he was going to be in this movie. So when his character is kind of shown introducing the cassette tape of Captain America's fitness challenge to the class, the camera kind of pans over to reveal Hannibal Buress, and I just kind of lost it at a very silent moment in the theater, like there was no joke played, but I just started laughing because Hannibal Buress was on screen. I always laugh when I see him, and then he said something really funny, like literally right after that.
Yeah, because it's showing Captain America, he's like, I'm pretty sure he's a war criminal now, but whatever.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Oh man, and I love that running gag of a Captain America doing that PSA, and even into the after credit scene. So so many things were just cranking off in this movie. It was just great.
They hit a lot of notes, and they hit it really fast. And I think one of the bigger things that we've talked about to death in the regular episodes, and something we've not brought up even yet now, is the inclusion of 3 Iron Man characters, Iron Man staple characters in this, which I didn't feel interfered with the movie as much as the trailers portrayed it to be. I feel they showed all those scenes in the trailers, and then that was it. So,
but I'm like, I'll stick to my guns that I still think that they revealed too much with that ferry scene, because once that ferry scene started, I was like, okay, here we go. Spider-Man's gonna cause a ruckus, and Tony's gonna have to come in and save him, and then right afterwards they're gonna have a discussion about taking his suit away, and that's pretty much what happened. I'm just glad that wasn't some sort of like final climactic scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're safe there, but yeah, I wish they didn't reveal that much. But
to me, it at least played out differently than the trailer, because in the trailer it looked like the Vulture just cut it in half, when it was actually one of the things blowing up and splitting it in half. Yeah,
that's true. So it was Spidey's fault that the ferry was ripping in half. So that was a little different. So they a little misdirect. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, he's got it, and she's like, congratulations on 98%. Fixing this. And it's like 98. Yeah. I mean, I think it did play out well, but I mean, it also wasn't like one of those. The trailer made it look very straightforward when the end result wasn't as straightforward as the trailer. So yeah, we may have known what was going. We could predict it, but I still had a good time with it. I still like how the suit landed, and he's like, "Well, if you were, if you cared so much, why aren't you here?" And he's like, "I am here," and steps out of the suit. Like that's true Tony Stark fashion. He's like, "Yeah, just what you thought. No, it's totally different." But at the end, we also got to see Gwyneth Paltrow's returning back to happy couple status.
That was a surprise. I was not expecting Goop to be in this movie.
Yes, Goop is in this movie. We got to see an actual Iron Spider suit, the MCU version of the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah. Oh man, I saw that, and I want to talk about the suit here in a minute overall from the movie. But yeah, I was just like, I think I see some gold trim on that.
Yeah, it was very, very much a Spider-Man suit with an Iron Man kind of like how the Iron Patriot was. It's Captain America, but with the Iron Man kind of thing to it. So it wasn't a true Iron Spider suit, but just enough to be believable. You're like, okay, that'd be cool if he was rocking that around for a while.
I get a little bit of a feeling, and maybe Infinity Wars Part 2, maybe that suit will pop back up. Maybe they'll need a little bit of reinforcements. They'll be at the Avengers campus, and maybe Peter will slip into that. Maybe not the whole movie, maybe just for a second, though. So, I don't think that suit's maybe gone forever.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it'd be such a shame to tease us with something so cool. And pull back. And then, actually, I'm really surprised at how much screen time Jon Favreau got.
Happy.
The originator of the Iron Man or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He says in the movie he's had this job since 2008. So I think I really enjoyed Happy Hogan in there. Like I think he played off Peter like he's like I really don't want to deal with kids, but whatever. So I had a good time with those characters returning more so than I thought I would.
Yeah, and his specific task in the movie of moving out of Avengers Tower was very interesting, because if you believe the accuracy of the 8 years in the future moniker at the very beginning, this movie apparently is supposed to take place in 2020. So I don't know exactly how hard pressed Kevin Feige is sticking to the timeline, and of course he could always use the cop out of Dormammu and Doctor Strange screwed up the timeline, so maybe things got a little weird. But so I guess at some point in the future, I don't know if this is after Infinity War Part 1 or maybe after even Black Panther coming up, but for some reason they're moving out of that Avengers Tower and selling it off.
Yeah, so there are banners around the city that say Stark Expo 2018 in this movie. Mm-hmm. So it's not 2016 when it comes out, or 2017. It's actually 2018. And if you were to say this is your one complaint, I bet this is your one complaint, isn't it?
No, it isn't actually.
Okay.
I'm not too hard pressed about these timelines. As long as they're within like a year or two of each other, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, so this is 2018. I think the only thing that lines up is the only post Avengers. The only one that dates itself, I think none of them date themselves in relation to Avengers, just in terms of each other. So, like this happened so much time after Civil War. Okay, this happened so much time after Thor. But they never say when that takes place after the Avengers. So, I honestly don't know, but it is very confusing. We don't have an answer. I assume we'll get an answer. I don't think they're going to overlook something that huge, especially as that starts the movie off, pretty much. Mm-hmm. My assumption is there's some sort of time gem. Something's happened with the time gem later on that we don't. I don't think it's the Doctor Strange Dormammu thing. I think something in Infinity War or the second one will like kind of slightly reset a timeline. Something.
Yeah, maybe something's gonna happen, but for sure.
We don't know. We don't have any solutions. No one's officially come out and said anything just yet. So that's a little weird because even James Gunn came out and said, well, Stan Lee was a FedEx guy in Civil War, which was after Guardians 2. But, I don't know. We'll see. That's fine.
Maybe it's just something Stan Lee has done quite a bit. Maybe it's just not always caught on the proverbial space camera.
Yeah, so we'll see how this plays out. And if it does even play out, if not, maybe they'll fix it in home release. But there are definitely Stark Expo 2018 banners around the city. So that much we at least know about.
Yeah. So obviously we love the movie, but the one nitpick I would like to bring up that I think could possibly be remedied in the next movies is his high-tech suit. I had a little bit of a problem with. So what I really love about Spidey is he's very resourceful, and he's good at working with what he's got, and which is basically just his superpowers and his webbing. And then when you get into more of like the comic books and the cartoons, he does a little bit more outlandish things like making parachutes with his webs and shooting like web balls and doing just weird things with his web that kind of doesn't really translate to the real world super well. So making a high-tech suit is a good way to get that stuff out there in the world. I will agree with that's a good conceit there. But at the same time, I felt like, he was kind of getting away with some stuff that I felt like he shouldn't be able to do quite yet, So obviously he had that training wheels mode on and they disabled that, and then he got all those different features. But he kind of felt just more kind of like he was in an Iron Man suit and less being Spider-Man himself. So what I was kind of hoping at the end of the movie, when he sees that Iron Spider suit and he rejects it, I was kind of hoping maybe he would get a lower grade tech suit. I don't necessarily want my Spider-Man running around with a heads-up display and all of these different things and like a taser web and things like that. I kind of just want him to be a little bit more vanilla Spider-Man, being our everyday Spider-Man, not just running around with like a tech suit. So when he was in that homemade suit with his own web shooters, I was really enjoying that portion of the movie because I was like, yeah, this really feels like Spider-Man. And even though I did like Karen, was that the name of
Karen was the name.
I liked the banter between Spider-Man and Karen. I thought that was kind of cool, but we've seen that kind of AI banter between Tony and Jarvis in the past, so it didn't really feel like I was seeing something I hadn't seen before. So, and it did pay off at parts in the movie, like, you know, like you said, when he was trapped in the bunker, you know, Spider-Man quips, so he needs someone to quip too. He can't just quip to himself. So I guess, you know, that's there for a purpose. But, you know, I'm kind of hoping in the future Spider-Man movies, they just kind of play down all of that tech stuff. You know, it's fine if it's still in his suit, but I don't need to see a heads-up display every time he wants to do something. I don't need to hear him shout, you know, electric web. You know, I don't need to hear him say that in the future. I just kind of want him to be, from the outside, just look like a normal Spider-Man, and whatever's going on inside the suit, that can happen. But I just don't need to know about it.
Well, I think the part of that is this is not Tony Stark with his AI, who was smarter than his AI in most of the Iron Man suits. So I didn't mind it as much when he's like, "Okay, lady in my suit, what should I do? Like, you know, tell me what I have because I skipped the whole process here. Whoops, I didn't mean to get this far." It's kind of like when you get into a video game, into a hard part that you're not leveled up for, and you're like, what can I do?
I think I've literally played Spider-Man games with that beginning tutorial mode when you're kind of in that blank city sky space. So that was kind of funny. But I mean, they made it work well. I mean, he's like a superhero in training still. He still doesn't get everything. You know, he's not super responsible. So it still worked in the movie. I'm just hoping moving forward, we just, you know, we're not seeing all that, you know, Spider-Man mixed with Iron Man. I just want my classic Spidey a little bit.
I feel very confident by the time we see him. Like, Karen will be there. He'll have the abilities, but he'll know how to do them without having to say them out loud. Like Doctor Strange casting his spells, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be more like that. And he'll just be able to like maybe set up hand gestures for each web he needs or something like that, or you know, whatever quick keyboard shortcuts he's obviously smart enough to do all that stuff. He just didn't know what he had. But yeah, I mean, I liked actually seeing the Vulture with his heads-up display, like the two shots they had in there. I'm like, oh, okay, so he knows what's going on. He's not smart enough to do it, but like he knows what's going on.
Yeah, he's resourceful.
He is, and then you know, I had a lot of fun. There wasn't a lot of spectacle in this movie, as much as there could have been, and I appreciate that because I really enjoyed meeting this Peter Parker, meeting this young adult version of Spider-Man, and tagging along with this movie adventure. You know, even as we get up here in age, we're farther away from high school now than we probably were when we were in it. But I mean, it's definitely, I had a really good time with this character, his villains, his supporting characters, the Easter eggs, everything in it. Like I need to go back and see it again. I want to go back and see it again because I just had such a great time. I want to see him interact more with the characters. I really like the more you mentioned the intro scene where he like web vlogs his whole adventure to the Civil War was just so fun. Like hearing his excitement and everything like that. So I mean, just a kid being excited to play in this big playground, but then the whole point of the journey is he's not in that big playground every day. He has to go back to, okay, I stopped a Grand Theft bicycle. Some lady bought me a churro because I gave her directions, kind of thing.
Like, hey, are you that Spider-Man guy? Yeah, do a flip.
Yeah, awesome. He's just doing little stuff around, and he wants to be bigger, but he can't. And I really enjoyed like his internal struggle with that. Like that was the whole journey to me.
Yeah, and going forward, you know, to kind of wrap up the spoiler cast, you know, the last thing we saw in the movie was Aunt May finds out that he's Spider-Man. That's something that hasn't been in the movies before. Obviously, it's been in the comic books before, that Aunt May knows. So that's going to be interesting going forward. She does seem to be a very cool aunt, so I think she's going to be okay with it to an extent, especially, because Tony Stark is probably going to come in and calm her down and be like, oh, he's a hero, you know, he's doing good. So, but I'm sure she's going to have a demand of, you can be this hero, but you have to finish high school. So he's still going to have to do that. So, I'm really looking forward to this trilogy coming forward with Spider-Man. I really want to see how they bring these new villains in. I wouldn't even mind seeing the Green Goblin come back maybe in a different avenue.
Apparently they're shelved, at least for the time being, at least not the next movie. Like 5G was like, there are tons of Spider-Man characters, villains.
Oh yeah. We need Mysterio for sure, and
Kraven. I think Kraven's going to Sony. That's okay. Scorpion, I think, is a great choice as well. If he's got these, you know, bionic abilities now or whatever, advanced because Spider-Man kind of took him out. Kind of that. I mean, some people are calling for a Sinister Six movie.
I don't need it.
But there's a version called the Ultimate Six where they blackmail Spider-Man to joining them, where he is the sixth member of it. So I think that would be interesting. Like, you got to help us, or we're gonna kill Aunt May, kind of thing. Okay.
Oh, poor Aunt May.
Yeah. So I mean, that was fun. I had a good time. Like, it was. Yeah. This was a good time. I agree with you. It was a good time to see all this.
Yeah, it's an easy recommend, and you should definitely go out and see Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Now, if you were to rank this in terms of Spider-Man movies, Mike, this is our 6th current Spider-Man movie. The start of a new franchise. Where would you put it in terms of the other Spider-Man movies?
Easily above Spider-Man 3 and Andrew Garfield. So obviously it's in the top 3 between Spider-Man 1, 2, and then Homecoming. I haven't seen the Tobey Maguire movies in a while, so I hear everyone always says number 2 is the best, so it's on my iTunes wish list, so I need to just buy it and rewatch it, but it's got to be 1 or 2, I would assume.
I'm actually
ranked number 1 or 2.
You'll never hear me not preach how much I love Spider-Man 2, but I think it's a movie of its time, and going back to it feels 2004-ish. This one will definitely take my number 1 spot. I believe so. So simply because I think Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 have so much camp in them because they are Sam Raimi films, and you feel that 90, a little bit of that 90s vibe pull down a little bit. But I think at high school Spider-Man is where it's at. So congratulations, Marvel, on convincing us that Spider-Man is worthy of a reboot.
Yeah, not letting Sony fuck it up.
Yeah, and then just taking the reins and just letting them have the money, and everybody wins. So yeah. So I think, hopefully, knock on wood, this leads to a Fantastic Four deal down the road.
Ooh, please.
But again, Spider-Man will return in Infinity War and in Avengers 4 before he comes back for his own movie. So we got a lot more Spider-Man to see, and a lot more developments on him to make before we get there. So
yes.
So anything else you want to add before we kick off the spoiler cast?
Dude, no, man, I think that's it. It's a recommend. Go see this movie, and then make sure you're subscribed to Superhero Slate, and check in for our news episode and see everything that's been going on in the superhero world.
Awesome. So in the meantime, if people want to know what you're up to, where can they follow you at?
Well, they can follow me at Mike Royer Design on Twitter and Instagram, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to know what you're up to when you go check this movie out for the second time, third time, maybe even fourth time, where can they follow you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Valdan, VALDAN. I usually share all my Instagram stuff there anyway, so you can trace it back to my Instagram however you want. I do have a pop vinyl that is reminiscent of Spider-Man's kill mode from this movie, and I know we didn't talk about that, but I think that was a very great Easter egg as well. But I'll put a picture up for that. And nice. Then where else can people find us at? People want to find more about Superhero Slate.
Well, if they want to check us out and see where we host our podcast, they can follow us and check us out at superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host the show, and to check out our show notes. So when you're listening to our news episodes and you want to check out the links to trailers and images and pictures and stuff like that, head on over to superheroslate.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Tumblr. You can subscribe and get us right in your email inbox every week, and you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to pick up some Superhero Slate merch, just head on over to superheroslate.com/store. You can pick up some shirts and mugs and mouse pads and stuff. That's really awesome. If you're a fan of the show, please consider leaving us a review wherever you listen to it. That's really helpful. We really love that. Give us 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, whatever you think we deserve. Leave us a review. We really love that. And then if you're a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week. There you go, Chris.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for that. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and we will catch you next week on our regular episode.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Well, back to what we do best.